Hey, everybody. My name is Dr. Michelle May, and I am so glad to have so many of you with me today. I really appreciate you reaching out and trying to make a connection in this difficult time. I am the CEO and founder of Am I Hungry Mindful Eating Programs and Training, and the author of the Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat book series. And my intention for offering this webinar today is just to help all of us have a moment to try to develop some mindful stress management techniques to kind of reframe and think about what's going on and how we can make the absolute best of the worst situation. I know these are very difficult times. I thought, oh, I've done mindful stress management talks before, and I'll just use some of those slides. But the truth is, as I was looking at them, so many of them don't fit when there's such unusual circumstances. So I am really, really honored that you would come and join us today for this opportunity to learn and to think and to reflect and to seek a little bit of support. This is going to be an interactive webinar. We will be using our chat window at points during the session. And so I want to encourage you to participate as much as you're comfortable doing so. I am the only one who will be on video. I am recording this session and I will be reading your responses, but I'll never read your last name, only your first name. So I hope you'll participate fully as much as you can. I would like to start with just a brief mindfulness meditation here. This is just an opportunity for us to get present, to arrive where we are right now in this moment. This is a picture, as you all know, of the Grand Canyon, just about 5 or 6 hours from where I live. I took this picture about exactly a year ago, maybe a little bit more than that, when we hiked to the bottom and back out in one day. These are very, very different times. That was an extremely challenging day for me. And these days, it seems that we've had a lot of challenges. So let's just, for a moment, see if we can let all of that go and be here. So I want to invite you to pay a few mindful moments of attention to your breath. And so just take 2 deep cleansing breaths to calm and center ourselves. Close your eyes if it's comfortable for you to do so. And then allow your breath to take on an easy, natural rhythm. Just observe it almost as if you're outside yourself, watching this creature breathe. With each exhale, allow any tension in your body to release itself. Relax your jaw, your shoulders. And notice if by doing these things, your breath naturally has more space to expand. Notice how your breath fills your chest and your abdomen, how your exhales lengthen, bringing a sense of peace and presence to your body and your mind. Feel yourself sitting in your seat, grounded in the present moment. Let's breathe together quietly for just a few more seconds. And if you notice your attention drift away, just gently recognize that that's what happened and return your attention to your breath. As thoughts arise, just notice them, perhaps with a silent aha or that's interesting. And then again, gently return your attention to your breath as many times as you need to. That's perfectly normal. This is exactly what minds do. And then go ahead and open your eyes. I want to invite you to allow yourself to be fully present for the next hour. One of the ways that we create stress for ourselves is by trying to multitask and do too many things at the same time. We don't do a good job of our email and we can't learn anything when we're typing. And so I just want to invite you to allow yourself to be fully present for this hour and see what you can really take away versus trying to divide your attention. So as I said a moment ago, these are unusual times. We have all kinds of stress that perhaps we don't usually experience in our day to day. We certainly have a fear of the unknown, a sense of loss of control, a sense of isolation through social distancing and quarantines. We may have fear of illness or fear of parents or loved ones becoming ill. We may be working from home, something that's never happened. We may be afraid of losing our job or maybe already lost our job. We may be experiencing financial stress. Maybe we have children at home or we're trying to homeschool children. So this is truly an extraordinary time. And I think that we have a choice in how we respond to this time. And that's really what this is all about, is for us to see if we can't discover ways to respond that might be more helpful. I want to start by talking a little bit about what stress actually is. We kind of throw this word around a lot, but what is it really, and why would we even bother trying to address it? Well, of course, stress is a natural instinct to protect ourselves. It is the way that our body responds in order to save us in danger. Now, of course, these kinds of reactions, when we lived in a time when there were wild animals roaming the earth, certainly stress was a valuable and important situation. Nowadays, we don't have big lions and tigers chasing us, but this microscopic virus that we can't see that feels equally as threatening, yet we don't know how to get away from it. This natural instinct for protection really shows up in our bodies in a fight, flight, or freeze response. When our bodies experience stress, we either are prepared to fight it off or flee from it or freeze until it goes away. Unfortunately, most of the time in our day-to-day life, this response is counterproductive. We may, get angry in traffic, or we might try to run away from things that we don't want to do or that are difficult for us or that we feel we're not doing well. Or we may just find ourselves collapsing and avoiding it altogether. And of course, none of those responses are particularly helpful in many of the stress situations that we find ourselves in. And they may not be particularly helpful in the situation that we find ourselves in today. So just for a moment, come to your chat window and just write a couple of words about how you feel when you're stressed. What experience do you have in your body and in your mind when you're under stress? Maybe what you're experiencing right now, or perhaps something that you've experienced in the recent past when you felt stressed out. Come and share with me a little bit about that. And I'll go ahead and read a few of these things once I've given you a chance, because I don't want to read while you're typing, because I know that, as I said a moment ago, we can't listen and type. We can't read and listen. So let me give you just a few more moments to share what your experience is with this. Okay, let me read a few of these. I think many of us can relate to this. Um, all right, hungry, tight, distracted. I tend to shut down, fatigue, hard to focus, tense, insecure, overwhelmed, tired. My neck gets tight, tightness in the chest, fill the void with food, shut down, out of control, anxious, overwhelmed, frustration, choppy breath, anxious, anger, worried, tired, irritable. I cry, anxiety attack, anxiety and restlessness, short attention span, neck and shoulder tension, cry from exhaustion, distressed, overwhelmed, out of control, body feels heavy, stomach tightness, want to numb out with food, frustrated, then zone out, pressure in my body, breathless, dizzy. My mind goes in a million different directions, hard to focus, irritation in my mind, scared. So I won't keep reading these because I'm seeing some repetition here. Oh, want to withdraw, back pain, hard to sleep. So These are very common experiences, and I want to talk a little bit about where this comes from because I think one of the things that we have to get out right up front is that it is completely normal that we're experiencing these things right now. And my intention today is to talk about where these come from, what we can do about them. I will, because my passion and my expertise is in mindful eating, I'm going to have spend some time talking about how we can deal with food, but that's not all I want to talk about because that's only one portion of all this. So, how does your body respond under stress? Well, when you're faced with a challenge, and it doesn't matter whether it's true physical danger or a traffic jam or a deadline or fear from watching the news too much, our body releases cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones are designed to help us with this fight, flight, or freeze response. The hypothalamus sends impulses through the endocrine system and autonomic nervous systems, and these signals will produce a surge of energy by making various organs dump stress chemicals into the bloodstream. And so that boosts our heart rate and our blood pressure. It dilates our blood vessels. It releases glucose or sugar into the bloodstream for energy. It causes hyperventilation, muscle tension, perspiration or sweating, dilated pupils so you can see better, relaxation of the rectum and bladder, and will stop your digestion as blood is shifted from the GI tract into the skin and muscles. So you can see that a lot of the symptoms that you all described here in your own experience with stress are coming from this underlying chemical reaction. So what's happening here is that the body it has set this up with the intention of mobilizing us for quick action in order to protect ourselves. But it takes a lot out of the body. And the stress response is designed to be a temporary response. The bear comes and we run away and we're safe, and then the stress stops. But when stress is chronic, we see a completely different response. When mobilization isn't possible or helpful, when you can't get away from the bear, or in this case, this threat of coronavirus, our bodies might begin to experience distress. So we may start to see some wear and tear on our bodies. And of course, that can make us more vulnerable. And so over time, if this goes on for a long period of time without us managing it more effectively, then stress can become dis-ease or disease. Now, I'm not saying this, of course, to add to your stress and fear. What I'm saying is that stress is unavoidable. Even before all of this, all of us face stress in our day-to-day lives. But what we have to do is make a conscious and real effort to manage stress effectively so that it doesn't worsen the situation. Of course, when we're under stress, we might be less able to handle situations effectively. We start losing things, forgetting things, making mistakes as we're working. We might start to experience gastrointestinal problems. We may even feel depressed or anxious. We get headaches, insomnia. Again, over a long period of time, you might develop high blood pressure and heart disease. And again, I'm not trying to stress you out further. I'm just saying that this isn't a minor thing that we can blow off and wait until it passes, because it who knows when it's going to pass, and it certainly will be replaced by new stressors at some point in the future. Now, many people develop distress habits. So we may turn to food or drinking an excessive amount of caffeine or alcohol or smoking or drug use, or maybe even seemingly helpful behaviors that can be counterproductive when carried to the extreme. So we might start to procrastinate or overwork or practice perfectionism in an attempt to control what feels like an uncontrollable situation. And these distress habits ultimately create more problems for us. So, as we think about how stress creates problems, I want you to sort of recognize that this is not a new phenomenon. And if in your past you've experienced stress at work or home, or maybe some of the personal things you're dealing with, how does what I just said relate to your own life? And you don't have to answer this necessarily. One person shared, this is why I have shingles. I myself got a little cold sore. This is the way my body has responded since I was 2 years old. So we get these symptoms. Yes, insomnia, I'm seeing. Yes, absolutely. So we start to have these other issues that begin to show up. Now, the truth is that stress is not always a bad thing. In some ways, if we can begin to look at stress as being a helpful response, when it's managed appropriately, that can be very helpful. So we have to learn to recognize, manage, and prevent excessive stress. Um, because if we don't, then it can create harm. But when stress is in appropriate doses, it can actually protect us from harm. I think many of us, due to the stress that we're experiencing over this COVID-19 outbreak, are taking steps to protect ourselves and our families. And so that indeed is a very beneficial effect. It can help us react quickly and appropriately in threatening situations. And again, this is probably a situation where maybe the action, we can't necessarily get out of the way and have the bus go by without hitting us. This is a more chronic situation, but absolutely can we act appropriately if we begin to have symptoms or notice somebody else becoming ill or find ourselves in a situation where we may be exposed. It also, in general, can help us respond to changing circumstances. It can help us be motivated to perform to the limits of our abilities. So, for example, just preparing for this presentation honestly was a little bit stressful because I know that these are difficult times. And so, the stress that I experienced from inviting you here to in an attempt to help also caused me to pay more attention to what I wanted to share and what would be most helpful. And of course, once in a while, stress can even be a little exciting. Certainly, a roller coaster ride might be a good example of that. And so, hopefully, there will come a time in the not too distant future when we can be back on roller coasters when we want to experience a little excitement instead of something like we've been going through recently. So when you experience excessive or chronic stress, or when you lack the adequate skills to cope with it, it does take a toll on us physically and emotionally. So a stress-free life is not possible or even desirable. So we have to make a choice to manage it before it manages us. So when you're experiencing stress, your impulse might be to just power through it or freak out or pretend it's not happening. But busyness and overworking and smoking and overeating and drinking and isolating ourselves beyond what's necessary to be safe, taking our frustration out on others, all of these kinds of responses actually perpetuate the stress reaction. And what we want to do is bring the body's stress reaction down. Now, one thing that's important for you to know about stress is that it doesn't matter whether it is a real threat or a perceived threat. The body does not know the difference. This is a critical point because what we know is that the mind creates the reaction in our bodies. And so, certainly, we may see a lion that's approaching us and immediately know that that's not a good situation. But we can also begin to think of worst case scenarios or play out the worst possible thing that could happen in a situation and force our body to ramp up this cortisol and adrenaline, even though it may not be particularly helpful when we're under a chronic stress situation, as we will be. Ginger said TFAR. So for those of you who have done our workshops or read any of my books, know TFAR. That's thoughts lead to feelings, lead to actions, lead to results. And so, as Ginger said, that is an exact situation where we end up creating what we don't want, which is more stress, more distress, and more disease. So I want to go through a few steps, things that I thought might be helpful to you. And the first is, unfortunately, we have to accept what is. Um, One of the things that we know about the body is that, and the mind, is that when we resist a situation, it actually compounds the situation. In Buddhism, they talk about the suffering that we create when we resist what already is. That doesn't mean you have to like the situation. It just means that it is what it is until it isn't anymore. And so acknowledging that your feelings are normal and that you are perfectly normal to feel out of sorts or a little confused or worried about what's happening. Be gentle with yourself during these times. You might find yourself overreacting to situations or maybe thinking unkind things, even if that's not usually your nature, or maybe find yourself wanting to go into freeze mode and just watch Netflix all day, or worse yet, MSN and listen to the news 24/7. We need to practice self compassion with ourselves. This is really an unusual time. Certainly, there have been pandemics before, but this is really the first in modern times where we have had such access to news all the time and can constantly be faced with what could happen and what's going on and what are the numbers. And so be compassionate with yourself if you're feeling overwhelmed and out of sorts. Next is to take action where you can. Certainly, we have to accept that this is what's happening right now, but there are places where we can take certain steps. And I'll talk about that. I'll weave that throughout. But one suggestion I have for you is to limit your exposure to the news. I have a really good friend who she and her husband bought a motorhome last fall, and their intention was to travel all over the United States and then spend the summer up in Alaska. And so we did a FaceTime yesterday, and she shared with me that they're in the motorhome and they've got the news on NPR all the time, and they are constantly listening to the news and talking about what's going on. And she's finding that it's really increasing their stress over the situation. She called because they're trying to decide whether to go back home and shelter in place or just continue their trip. And I don't know what you would do, but my suggestion was, you're taking your home with you, and as long as you're not in a lot of public places, and as long as the campgrounds stay open, enjoy the trip for as long as you can, because right now they're not going to be able to cross into Canada and go up to Alaska, so they might as well enjoy the trip as they can and keep themselves safe in the process. If you like me want to keep up with the news and need to keep up with the news, and I think most of us do, choose a specific time to watch. We have limited ours to the morning news and the evening news, and we're kind of turning it off in between, so we don't have it on all the time. We're not playing the radio. We're not constantly exposed, so it gives us a little bit of a break. It gives my brain and my mind and my body a little bit of a break. Certainly be sure you're depending on reliable sources. Even though I'm a medical physician, I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said to you. I do think that we need to find sources that we trust and be very, very careful about scrolling through the internet and reading things out there that just aren't true and are alarming us even further. Of course, follow the recommendations, do the safe things, do what we're being told by the experts to do. And I encourage you to share with people that you're close to, but be careful that, fear is contagious. And so when we start talking to one another, either live or virtually, and we start spinning out of control, sharing the worst case scenario and all of this, be aware that that fear that we're talking about increases our own body's responses as well as the people that we're talking to. So certainly be cautious of this. This is particularly true of young children. So, obviously watching what they're being exposed to is really important. It's important as much as possible in this very unusual time to establish routines and rituals to keep some kind of a predictable schedule for yourself and for your family. If you're used to going to work and your children are used to going to school, this can feel very confusing and discombobulating. And the body really prefers a predictable, normal cycle of things. So create a schedule for yourself, whatever that looks like. I'm not going to tell you what it should be, but I would suggest that you establish a consistent bedtime, that you not allow yourself to stay up late watching the news or movies or doing whatever we might do if we don't have to get up early in the morning. And certainly if you're able to sleep in the morning, do it, but be careful not to allow yourself to get into oversleeping and then not being able to sleep the next night and kind of developing these maladaptive cycles that ultimately will backfire. Get dressed each morning. You know, I've worked from home. I have a home office here. We have our studio here. We have our book distribution center here. I've got several computers that I work from. But every day I make an attempt to get up and get dressed. Preferably get up, put on some yoga clothes or hiking clothes, get out of the house for a little while, and then get dressed. And so I want to encourage you to create that routine for yourself and your family members. If you are working from home, set office hours. Avoid the temptation to work, 12, 14 hours a day, because ultimately that becomes less productive. But be sure that you schedule break times for yourself. You will probably find it, if you're not used to working from home, you may find it difficult to stay focused. And so having periods of time, shorter periods of time, maybe an hour or 2 hours or 20 minutes or whatever works for you, when you're going to focus on whatever task you're working on, and then give yourself a short break, you'll be much more productive than trying to just work continuously. And as I said, kids especially need routines. As a family doctor, I can tell you that children really suffer when things get confusing. Of course, we've all been through summer breaks before, so we know what that's like. But as much as you can, set up something that they can predict. I want to encourage you to develop a daily mindfulness practice, whatever that looks like for you. Just take a little time to get present. Because here's the thing that I learned about mindfulness. If I am worrying about what might happen tomorrow, for me, my daughter is getting married in June. We have invited over 100 people to come and celebrate her wedding with us. And so you can imagine that right now there's a lot of questions in our minds about what will happen with that, and deposits and rebooking and whether we'll get to see family members and all kinds of things. So it's incredibly stressful to worry about the future. And so bringing myself into the present moment periodically and just noticing that right now I'm well, I am fine, and it's going to play out however it's going to play out. It's very helpful to my nervous system to give myself a break and just be in the present moment and breathe. Karen said, it's hard to remember what day of the week it is because of the changes, right? Like, so we don't have a routine. Like we don't have Saturday, Sunday off, work Monday through Friday, right? So every day begins to feel like Saturday and Sunday because we're home, yet we may have things that we need to be doing that we wouldn't ordinarily have to do if we were, or we wouldn't ordinarily have to do if it really was a weekend. Thank you for that. That's a great point. So just pause. This to me is the most important mindfulness skill you can develop. I'll talk about it in relationship to eating here in a few moments, but just taking a moment to pause and check in with yourself. How am I feeling? What physical sensations are happening in my body? What thoughts am I having right now? What feelings or emotions am I experiencing? When I pause to notice this, it gives me the ability to respond to the situation rather than reacting mindlessly. When I am not pausing and noticing what's happening, then my brain has no choice but to do what it always did, which may not be the most effective choice at that time. I prefer to respond. We did a mindful breath exercise at the beginning of this webinar, and I hope that you experienced a little release of tension and stress in that brief exercise. We'll provide this recording for you so that you can practice that exercise again. And if there's time, I want to share another mindfulness practice at the end that I think you'll really find helpful for yourself. Oh, Jill said, such great advice. What day is it? Yeah, when I had a good friend who was in a nursing home for an extended period of time after a stroke. And that was something that her husband did every day. Good morning, sweetheart. Today is Wednesday, June 13th. It is 6 o'clock, in the evening or whatever, that there was this routine and orientation to time and space. Thank you for that, Karen and Phil. Prayer. If you are one who prays, this can be a really beneficial time. And then meditation. I've said this before in our workshops, but I heard once that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening. And that really struck me. I think that that's really important, that we're asking for what we want, which is peace and safety and happiness and joy, and for all of this to pass quickly. And then meditation is just sitting and noticing what is right now. I encourage you to find mindful movement opportunities. This might be a mindful walk. Perhaps you want to try some yoga or Tai Chi. And then we are going to send you a little gift afterward. One of the things that happened in all of this for me and my business is that we unfortunately had to cancel our mindful eating and yoga retreat that's scheduled for April. It was really disappointing to Dawn and I, my yoga instructor and good friend, and all of the participants who had signed up. And so she recorded a yoga nidra practice. Yoga nidra, if you've never experienced it, is an amazing relaxation practice, really, really powerful. And so she is going to gift all of us with an audio recording of an 18-minute yoga nidra practice. And so when we finish all of this and the recording of this webinar is ready, we'll send you a recording of this, and we'll send you a link to the audio so you can listen to that and try a little yoga nidra daily to get yourself into a relaxed state. I want to also recommend that you get outside. As far as I know, as long as you're not in densely populated areas, this is a perfectly safe thing to do and a really beneficial thing to do. The sunlight is helpful, the movement is helpful, the change of scenery is helpful. So get out, take a walk your dog, work in your garden. You could take a drive. Right now in Arizona, we've had a lot of rain this spring. The wildflowers are going to be incredible. I have every intention to driving out and seeing the wildflowers, hopefully getting out, taking a hike, or maybe just finding a beautiful place to sit. My friend Marnie, when she called me yesterday, she's the one that's on that motorhome trip. She FaceTimed me, and I could see that she was sitting in this camper chair in green grass. There was a lake in the background. I could see her camper and I could hear her dog. And I really thought that's just it, being outside and just sitting for a little while and being present, very relaxing to the nervous system. My next recommendation or suggestion for you is to reframe. And really what we're talking about reframing is we can't change the situation, but we can think about it a little bit differently. So even when you feel that you have no control over a situation, you are in charge of what you focus on. You get to choose where you tune your attention. And so if you're constantly focusing on the numbers, then it may actually heighten your sense of stress and anxiety, whereas we can begin to shift our focus. So is it possible that we might see this terrible situation as an opportunity to get quiet, maybe to catch up on some things that we've let go, maybe to learn something new that we didn't have time to do, or to make a change, to do something different. Ginger also, she's the one who shared TFAR before. She said, don't miss the lessons, which is another key message that we teach in our workshops. That's from workshop 7. Don't miss the lesson. We're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. And if we can take a moment to to check in and say, what did I learn here? Or what can I do differently? Or what can I do here? I think for many, many, many of us, we have not taken the opportunity to get quiet or find some space in our lives. And many of us right now have that being, willed upon us. And so now we have a chance to focus on the opportunity. Of course, I want to encourage you to increase connection. I think one of the risks in what is happening here is that we're going to become more isolated from one another. We're not seeing each other face to face. We're not comfortable giving hugs or shaking hands or sharing meals together face to face, except within our immediate circle of influence. And so I want to encourage you to look for places where you can find connection. I heard it said on the news this morning, social distancing does not mean emotional distancing. We don't have to be emotionally distant from one another in this social distancing. We need each other more now than ever. So how can we begin to find this opportunity to connect with one another? So for those who are in your household, we want to really work on nurturing our close relationships. This is an opportunity maybe to spend more time with these individuals than we usually have. We need to work on communication, talking about how we're feeling or what our needs are in a more clear way. But it may also require us to set boundaries, because now when we're underfoot and around each other all the time, we might find that the little things that get on our nerves that we can kind of brush off when it's just short periods of time, we might find that these things, especially when we're already feeling stressed, can create more problems. So plan a little time apart. You work in this room, I'm working in this room, or I'm going for a walk, or whatever it is, that we're spending a little bit of time apart so that we have a chance to kind of, decompress. I want to just remind you that there's a lot of new opportunities here that we can really choose to cherish. Certainly, it's rare for most parents to homeschool their children. And so, if this is a new opportunity for you, undoubtedly it's more stressful than you probably expected. My daughter is a seventh grade science teacher. And of course, she's saying, well, I guess people will finally get to see what I go through, only I have 32 students to deal with in each class. So I think that we certainly can learn more about learning. We can learn how our children learn best. We can learn what they're learning in school. And we can also learn about ourselves. How can we be more positive and supportive in this time when they're trying to adjust to this new situation as well? Of course, a big favorite of mine is to really encourage you to pause and eat together. I'm a really big proponent of family meals. Whatever your family looks like, it may look very different from the image on the screen. Whatever your family looks like, if you have people in your household that you can eat with, please do. But if you don't and you're by yourself, I want to encourage you to find ways to create virtual connection. So reaching out to your family and friends through texting, calling, maybe more than you ordinarily would. Maybe spend some time on FaceTime like I did with Marnie, using social media in a productive way to connect with people, see how they're doing, finding some humor in all of this. A couple of girlfriends and I had a happy hour planned for this week, and of course we had to call that off. And so our plan is to get on a Zoom meeting like we are right now, although I'll set it up as a meeting where all of us can have our video, and we're gonna each pour a glass of wine and chat together as a way of connecting. I heard about another group that is planning a mindful meal together. They're gonna bring their dinners to the computer and eat together virtually. So be creative about how we connect with one another. Find ways to really reach out. We have technology that we never would have had before. And so this is such an important way for us to really connect and find ways to stay together. Terry said, everything you're saying sounds exactly what a cancer patient deals with when diagnosed and isolated and all involved through the journey. Wow. Yeah, so you know what? Thank you for that, Terry. So what we're talking about, other people have experienced before. People have been through this before. It is difficult and we've got to be creative. Maybe this is going to help us develop completely new compassion for people who are in situations like this in their own lives for other reasons now that we've experienced it. Thank you for that, Terry. I want to encourage you to build a self care buffer zone. So, a self care buffer zone is really about how we can make ourselves more resilient to the stress that we're facing right now. And of course, when this is all over, and I hope that's soon and I hope it's complete, but when we take care of ourselves, body, mind, heart, and spirit, we are more resilient to the stress, to the distress, and to the disease. So I like to think about our well-being as being a complete picture of physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual health. It is not necessarily the that you're healthy, but it's the optimal state of health that you can have given the current circumstances. It's not necessarily perfect health. Even a person with cancer, as Terry shared, can experience optimal well-being if they're staying connected and they have good medical care and they've got a positive attitude and hope. And so it may look different, and certainly for us right now, our well-being might look very different than it did even a month ago, or hopefully than it will 6 months from now. Lynn says, anyone with a portal that can connect, I'm alone and it would be good to talk and see each other. Oh, I love that. So Lynn, this is a wonderful way to reach out to each other. I'm going to give you a little bit of a pitch. This webinar is not in any way, shape, or form intended to market anything that I do. I'm a small business. I'll make it through all this just like every other small business, I hope. But we have a mindful eating support community that we've been running for 3 or 4 years. And even before all of this, I see this community as a way that people can stay intimately connected. So I encourage you to find ways that are meaningful and ways that you can connect. But if mindful eating or problematic eating is something that you've been working on, I would want to invite you to our community. When I send that email out, I'll send you the links that you can use to join. And if you saw my newsletter this week, and I think most of you did, or you wouldn't be here, we offered a huge discount because I really just wanted to try to give back in some small way. So we'll send that information to you, but if that's not for you right now, look for other ways to connect with people virtually. Paulette says, I rely on the mindful eating support community. It's been a great investment in myself. Wonderful. Thank you, Paulette. And you've been a really important member of that community. You've been very generous with sharing your truth and your experiences. So thank you for that. Elise says, Facebook has some great groups to connect with other RDs, dietitians. Wonderful. Thank you. Karen said, it really helped me today. Thank you. I'm so glad you reached out today, Karen. It was good to connect with you there. Lynn said, definitely have an issue with eating. Yes, you know what? Many of us do or did, and that's what this community is all about. So, and of course, we deal with lots of different things, but I'll be sure and include that information in my email. I want to make sure that we get through the content here. So I'm not going to take the time to give you a sales pitch. I just want you to know that it is in my heart. I promise you, it is in my heart to do whatever I can to support you through these difficult times. And whatever, if you come out of all this with a better relationship with food, then that's a great thing. That could be a wonderful thing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about physical self-care briefly. Obviously, in this time, it's super important to continue to take care of our health. I want to encourage you to eat a balance of nutritious foods. And I say balance because if you've ever done any work with me or read any of my books, you know that I'm an all foods fit person. I don't believe in demonizing foods. I don't think any foods are bad. I don't want you to start thinking that you've got to be good because I don't believe there's any such thing. And I think it backfires when we try. So I really encourage you to practice balance, variety, and moderation in your eating. Now, certainly, if you have a troubled relationship with food, there may be some restrictive thoughts and other issues that get in your way, and those are things you can work on too. Engage in enjoyable physical activity, get outside, move your body. Maybe you haven't used that darn treadmill or that stationary bike forever, but maybe this is a time that you might finally start to move a little bit. It is so good for releasing stress and rebalancing the brain chemistry. Get rest and adequate sleep. Maybe you take a hot bath or a long shower, or give yourself a little spa day, a little opportunity to just really, really relax. Maybe you do your nails or try a facial, or maybe try a makeup video that you wouldn't do if you knew you had to go out that day or something fun. So Elise says, yes, all foods fit, and yes, for intuitive eating. Yes, intuitive and mindful eating. It's really, for those of you who aren't familiar with how we approach this, I promise you, it is the way of the future. It is the now, but for many of us, it's been frustrating with how long it's taking to take hold, but I think we're really seeing a change in tide. Intellectual self-care. So maybe you take some time to read. If you can't get to the library and check out books, I downloaded Kindle onto my phone, and so I can read books whenever I want. I have an assortment of both fiction and nonfiction books that I'm working on at any given time. Maybe you learn something new, learn a new skill or a language. And of course, I don't need to tell you, but you can go on YouTube and find any anything you want to learn, how to change a tire, how to cook something. It's all there for just a few minutes of your time. Do brain teasers and play games. I encourage you to do this with your children as well if they're with you. And don't forget that intellectual well-being also includes creativity. So art and music and crafts and hobbies, things that perhaps you haven't had time to do. Jonathan said coloring. Yes, I love it. That's great. Jill said, I am in the middle of editing my novel. Yes, that's going to come up here in just a few minutes, but I love that. I'm calling it productive quarantine. So we'll talk more about that here in a second. Happy Colors is great if you like to color. Lynn, is that a website? A website that you can do, or is that what's Happy Colors? I also encourage you to take an online class, or as I said, we have a mindful eating program that we offer within our mindful eating support group. So if you're interested in learning about mindful eating, maybe this is the perfect time when you haven't been able to find time to do it before. Now you've got time. Maybe you listen to podcasts, learn something new that way. And I'll keep going until Lynn replies to helping us understand what Happy Colors is, because I want to know. That sounds great. I like the name of it. So emotional self-care, seeking out support, as we talked about, embracing your full spectrum of emotions. It's not that we're supposed to always be happy. We're going to experience ups and downs. And without some of the stressful or difficult times, we don't even know really what happiness is until we have a chance to compare. Let's see, Joy said, I listen to podcasts and audiobooks while doing jigsaw puzzles. Ooh, that's awesome. And that works because it's using two different parts of your brain, by the way. It's very difficult for you to type something while you're trying to listen to me talking, because that's using the same verbal pathways. But while you're doing a puzzle or painting, you may be able to listen to something. Elise said she thinks Happy Colors is an app. Yes, Lisa said it's an app for phone and tablet. It's fun. I have it too. Let's see. Yep, Lynn said it's a download with pictures. You select colors based on numbers. Oh, I have this. I have one like this too. It's not called Happy Color, but it's an app that you tap and pick the colors. Yes, I love that. Deb says laughter is helpful with stress management and self-care too. Recreation, recreate your energy. Recreation, recreate. I love that. Let's keep going. Identifying your feelings. What are you experiencing? Can you work on your language of emotion? What is the feeling that you're having right now? Stress is a pretty broad word. Can you be more specific? Is this fear? Is it boredom? Is it overwhelm? What is it exactly? Learn to practice relaxation techniques. And as I said, I'll send you this recording. You'll have a meditation at the beginning and at the end, and also Dawn's Yoga Nidra meditation. It's okay to take a break. Get away from this for a while. You don't have to be thinking and talking about it all the time. Find something else to do. Watch a movie, do something. It's perfectly fine to give your brain a break from this. And look for humor, as we just heard a moment ago here. Finding the humor in things. We went to a restaurant last week before things started closing down in our area, and they had a bucket of Corona on the counter and a sign and a stack of toilet paper, and it was a Corona special: buy a bucket, get a roll of toilet paper for free. You have to laugh. You just have to laugh. I mean, I can't help it right now. Diana said the movie Inside Out might be a great one right now. Yes, so Inside Out is a kid's movie, but it talks a lot about emotions and what emotions are and how to label them. I love that. Another favorite of mine is What the Bleep Do We Know? What the Bleep Do We Know? It's about how we create our own reality through the thoughts that we have. Let's see here. I'm looking to see other comments you've shared. I like to journal. Cheyenne says, I like to journal to write down my feelings and figure them out. Beautiful. All right, let's talk about spiritual self-care. This is really not just about religion. It might be religion for you, but it isn't for everybody. Being present and practicing mindfulness, praying, meditating, practicing yoga, whatever resonates for you. Seeking solitude and silence. Somebody said that one of the things that they loved was if when they take a walk now, they can hear the birds and things that they weren't able to experience before. Read meaningful works, whatever that is for you. Spending time in nature, which I think crosses a lot of these. Writing in a journal, defining your guiding principles. This is shaking a lot of us up. And so is this a time for you to check, is what you're doing with your life in alignment with what's really important to you? This is an opportunity for you to reset. Do I need to be focusing elsewhere? Have an attitude of gratitude, focusing on what we're thankful for: the technology, the healthcare system, the ability to communicate. There are things to be grateful for. Serve others. Is there some way that you can serve? Yes, a gratitude journal or a grateful journal. I love that. Kelly says, I pray and read the Bible to relieve stress. Yay, Audible. Yes, right now. Yes. So we won't take the time to have you do this right now, but I want you to jot down a note to take one action step. What will you do to invest in your well-being during this time? And really, really seriously, don't make a big long to-do list, but pick one thing. I mentioned this earlier, productive quarantine. Somebody shared that they're editing their novel, which is fantastic. I've decided that 5-day period when we were supposed to be doing our mindful eating and yoga retreat, I'm going to finish a book that I've been working on for a long time. Absolutely. Maybe you want to learn to cook or teach your children to cook. Maybe it's time to do that spring cleaning you always intend to get around to, or organizing your photos in your electronic files, finishing your taxes, getting that refund in, or maybe working on your business. A lot of people right now, especially those of us in small businesses or those who've lost their jobs, perhaps this is a time to kind of reset and think about what this might look like in the future. So the question you ask yourself is, what have I always been saying that I wish I had time to do? Why do I not, why do I not find the time to do things? Here's a couple comments. Laura said, serve others, give blood. Cheyenne said, if you are a healthcare professional with an NPI number, the Headspace app is free until the end of the year. Did you hear that? So if you're a healthcare professional, you know what an NPI number is. Go to Headspace and you can get it free till the end of the year. Thank you for that, Cheyenne. That's amazing. Oh, Linda said, any hints on what your book is about? Yeah, it's my athletes book. I've been working on Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat for athletes for ages. And so I've made some good strides in that. All right, look for the positive. We've all seen the videos of people in Italy and China and other places, even New York City now, playing music, singing to one another, singing happy birthday. I think this is a really beautiful way to say, gosh, there's some really good things going on in the world. I don't know if any of you saw this morning, but in Rio, they're projecting the flags of the affected countries on the famous Christ the Redeemer statue. I thought that was just absolutely beautiful. It just gives me chills even showing you this picture. So we can choose to focus on these positive things. The famous Mr. Fred Rogers. This is one of the things I'm going to do this time that I'm quarantined or at least under voluntary social isolation. Is I'm going to watch the Fred Rogers movie. But he said, when I was a boy, I would see scary things in the news. My mother would say to me, "Look for the helpers. You will always find people. You will always find people who are helping." So what can you do? Can you offer to shop for high-risk individuals? Can you offer to make meals or do yard work or chores or shop for healthcare workers who are spending a lot of time at the hospital and exhausted at home? Could you donate blood? Is there something else you can be doing? Just ask yourself the question, what can I do? Even a small thing. Yesterday or 2 days ago, we talked to my son. He's in Chicago, and he's lives by himself. He's got some roommates, but they all work. He's basically isolated, and he ordered his groceries from Amazon. And my husband told me that it doesn't look like he's going to get his groceries until April 1st. So we put together a box of things that he might need that'll get him by until his groceries come in. It's a small thing, but it's important. I apologize, I'm running a little long, but I really want to talk a bit about mindful eating since I know many of you are struggling with eating at this difficult time. And of course, we're more vulnerable to mindless and overeating when we're tired and stressed and otherwise not at our best. And so I really believe this strong self-care buffer zone can help us with that. But I want to talk about a few specific things about this. We know that we're experiencing more triggers for eating. We're under more stress. We may be experiencing fear, loneliness, boredom, more time at home. So availability of food that we aren't ordinarily around all the time, maybe reaching for food for comfort, maybe scarcity, all this fear about the stores running out. Scarcity is a big trigger for overeating, which is one of the reasons I don't believe in dieting, because as soon as we start telling ourselves we can't have it or there's not enough, we start craving it. Yeah, Elise said, yes, my eating disorder clients are triggered by this crisis. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely finding a lot of people struggling with this. So if you find yourself craving a snack, rather than just going to the refrigerator and opening the door, just pause to check in. Ask yourself, am I actually hungry? So this is that pause that I was talking about before, taking a moment to just notice your physical sensations, noticing your thoughts, noticing your feelings. What's really going on right now while I want a snack? This is so powerful for us. Now, as a reminder for those who've already been through our workshops or read my books, but for those of you who maybe have not really thought about the physical signs of hunger before, hunger pangs, growling, emptiness, queasiness, irritability or hangry, right? Headache, low energy, maybe feeling shaky or having difficulty concentrating. All of these kinds of responses can be physical signs of hunger. And notice that they're physical. They're not just cravings. They're not, ooh, that looks good, or, oh, I'm bored, I want to eat, or, oh, I don't know when I'm going to get a chance, or whatever. They're actual physical sensations that your body needs fuel. It is like checking your fuel gauge before you pull into the gas station. Just pausing for a moment to notice whether or not your body actually needs fuel. Are you getting low? Or is it possible it's something else? Now, if you are hungry, then plan to take a little bit of a break to make a snack or make a meal. Sit at a table away from your computer, away from the TV or the newspaper, and try to eat mindfully. And I don't have the time to go into this right now, but we like to say it's about eating with intention and attention, or purpose and awareness. So your intention might be to nourish and fuel your body or gain some pleasure. Your attention is how you really notice the experience of eating and how your body responds. You'll find that you're going to enjoy your food much, much more. And it's so much easier to notice when you've had enough when you're eating with intention and attention. Now, if you check in and you ask yourself whether you're hungry and you notice that you're not, be sure that you notice what other thoughts and feelings you're having at that time, because certainly right now we're experiencing lots of triggers for overeating. So you might notice that you feel overwhelmed or bored or lonely or stressed, and just notice, is this the reason that I feel like eating right now? Is this what triggered this desire to eat versus hunger? Now, you could be hungry and experiencing emotion. That's perfectly normal and common. But sometimes the desire to eat is coming from the experience. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that if you're not hungry, don't eat. You can still eat. Absolutely, you can still eat. It's just that it's about choosing and not reacting mindlessly to the situation and then feeling worse afterward because you're still stressed and you're full. If you decide that right now I am really stressed out and I want to take a break and have a bite of chocolate, fine, do it, and do it with pleasure and without guilt. And you could also take the other route and say, well, you know what? I feel like eating, but I'm not hungry. So I don't really need fuel right now, but I need something. What else is going on that I really need? If you imagine that you have two buckets in your body, fuel needs and all these other needs, and you continually try to use food to meet your other needs, you're not only going to feel full, but potentially uncomfortable, but your other needs aren't being met. And that's the most important part of mindful eating, is learning how to use what we need to use at the appropriate time. So if you're not hungry yet, then pause to ask yourself, what is it that I really need right now? Maybe I just need a glass of water, or maybe I need a short break or get up from my computer. Maybe I need to change tasks. Maybe I've been doing something really detail oriented for too long and I need to do something a little more active or interactive. Maybe I need some connection with my coworkers or with my family. And so once you have an idea of what that need is, it puts you in a position of being able to decide, what small step could I take to try to meet that need. Maybe I just need to take a few deep breaths to calm my nervous system. Maybe I need a short walk around the neighborhood or even around my house. Or maybe I could make a phone call or text somebody. Maybe I just need to prioritize my to-do list so I stop feeling so overwhelmed. So as we wrap up here, please share on your chat window, of everything that you heard, is there one small step, one small thing that you can see yourself doing to help you manage stress during this time? I'm going to read a couple things were um, that were shared here earlier as you guys are typing in one small thing, and then I'm going to wrap up with a short meditation that I think is really valuable. And I will, as I said before, I'll share the recording of this as well. Diana said, an RD on CBS this morning responded well to Gail King's shame she expressed over eating a late night non-hunger snack. She sounded like she was well trained in Am I Hungry principles. I love that. Good. It really is starting to hit mainstream media. I think people are really starting to realize that shame and guilt and bad and good is just not helpful. Marsha's going to make time for me. Lynn, journaling. Julie, I'm not big on meditation, but maybe I'll try. You know, Julie, I don't blame you. It's challenging. I'm going to suggest a really short meditation. My favorite app right now is either Calm, C-A-L-M, or Insight Timer. Insight Timer, you can actually pick how long the meditation, 5 minutes, right? Or 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And so just taking a few minutes to practice can be really helpful. Maureen, learn to focus on what I can control instead of all that is going on around me. Pam, exercise, acceptance, and mindfulness. Lisa, staying away from the news and staying in my normal routine. Yes, beautiful. Jonathan, pausing more, taking a breath, and thinking about the things I've never had time for and working on those. Good. Joy, make connections while maintaining social distance. Yes. Deborah, take time for creativity. Teresa, taking time to appreciate myself enough to make the time to watch this video. Yes, I agree. I agree. That's fabulous. Taylor, yoga and mindful breathing. Lisa Ann, daily practice of feeling present no matter what that looks like. Yes, no perfection. Getting some coloring books and markers back out. Yes, or the app that we talked about. Cynthia, try to notice how I'm feeling and not mindlessly eat because I feel stressed. Definitely. And again, don't make it a all or nothing or a bad or good. If you choose to eat, eat, but don't add to your stress by beating yourself up, and eat mindfully because you're looking for pleasure in that moment. You're looking for a break. If you eat while you keep working, then you're not going to get any of it. So, yeah, just really being conscious about our choices. Jill, putting structure in my life and including mindfulness and stretching. Beautiful. Deb, she said she suggested, oh no, she's saying meditation. Look into Headspace, and that was the one that had the freebie for healthcare workers. Marty, have a routine to my day. Linda, try very hard to find physical exercise in light of the fact that my daily exercise classes are canceled. I know, I'm having the same problem. Marcella, taking breaks more, giving myself a break and focusing on the positives. Susan, pause and breathe. Diana, virtual connections, reaching out to those in isolation, reducing media exposure. Mindy, creating a schedule appeals to me. Lack of structure for me leads to feeling overwhelmed. Yes, that was well said. You said that better than I did. That lack of structure is very stressful for us right now. John or Jean, try new things. Jacqueline, taking action where I can. Dora, schedule alarms on my phone for breaks. Ooh, good suggestion. I like that. Thank you for that. Wendy, take time away from stress to take care of my needs. Yes. Karen, do some garden work. Yes. Boy, our yards need to be weeded right now. We've had so much rain, so that's what I'm going to do this weekend. Barbara, get outside, start that garden, clean up from the windstorms, move my body. Beautiful. Paulette, emotional self-care, identify my feelings in my journal and allow my brain to experience them while practicing mindful breathing. Yes, thank you for that, Paulette. Paulette, it's so important to not push our feelings away or deny them, but to allow ourselves to experience them. Haley, try to finish some books I've been reading. Yes. Sherry, stress is paralyzing to me, so I'm going to try to find a way to go for walks and get outside, even if it snows. Good, I'm so glad. Elise, Insight Timer has so many options for free too. Yes, I only use the free app and I love it. The paid version of Calm, by the way, has a 1-hour masterclass that I recorded for them last year. So if you do have the paid version of Calm, be sure and look for that Mindful Eating masterclass. Pam says, focus on self-care ideas, not in quarantine, but our business is under a lot of pressure, so it takes all of our attention. Yeah, that's right. So even if you're not quarantined, you've got to be balancing yourself so it doesn't become overwhelming. Linda says, look for all the possibilities as opportunities right now. Be proactive. Laura's going to start a gratitude list. Wonderful. Lynn, there are some really great online meditations. I use one every night to get to sleep. She recommends Jason Stevenson, and it's spelled Stephenson. Beautiful. Cheyenne, trying to pause and think about halt. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Excellent. Beautiful. Ginger, adjusting expectations. That's great. Especially if you happen to be homeschooling your children. Although, Ginger, I think you are a homeschooler already, so you're already way ahead of a lot of people. Dusty, take a few minutes to get outside and breathe in the fresh air. Elise, focus on the positive and seeing the opportunity. Laura, gratitude list. Catherine, get outside each day. I'm almost done, but let me read because I'm telling you, I am loving this. Oops, I just closed the chat window. Hang on, let me get it back open again. Hang on. Get out and be more active and stop stressing about things I can't change. Ooh, I love this. Laura says, make the table beautiful, sit at it and eat. Sarah said, play the piano, yoga, things I feel I never have time to do. Yep. this is it, right? We were always complaining about not having enough time. Jasmine said, truly wait to see if I'm really hungry. And I missed the beginning, so I hope to watch the pre-recorded webinar. Yes, I'll send that link, I promise. Let me see, here we go down a bit. Tomorrow is the first day of spring. Celebrate it. I think it's actually today. Celebrate it wherever you are. Look for reasons to celebrate anything and everything. That's beautiful, Linda. Thank you for that. We all needed to hear that. Arlene says both Silver Sneakers and Planet Fitness are offering free workouts for everyone on Facebook. Planet Fitness is also on YouTube, approximately 20 minutes. Thank you for that. I'm going to go look for that myself. Thank you. Rochelle, change the stress focus and teach my son to drive. I just said that to my kids the other day. I said, wouldn't this be amazing? Nobody's on the streets. You could just drive and you'd be safe. That's awesome. All right, everybody. I hope so much that this was valuable for you. It really is a time that we need to be coming together, and perhaps it's an opportunity for us to really focus on the things that we are in charge of and to take good care of ourselves and build our resilience so that we can withstand this and help those who need our help. I'm really just so grateful that you took time to be with me today. Blueprint is offering 2 weeks of craft videos. Ooh, I might go check that out myself. I'm hearing, oh, you know what, so I'm just going to tell you, this slide is a picture I took in Mexico last year. I'm going to, when we get off here, rather than doing it now and taking more of your time and overwhelming you, I'm going to record this separately and I'll send it to you as a separate meditation so that you can do it on your own. So I want to just read here for you the things that are coming in because I'm experiencing a sense of gratitude for you. And so I want to share this. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Linda says, thank you. Lisa says, thank you, Michelle. Jill, what an amazing time. Thank you so much, Michelle. You're so welcome. Vita, thank you so much. Lynn, thank you so much, Michelle. Marcella, thank you for your wisdom. Helene, beautiful pic. Thank you. That's one of my hobbies is photography. I'm going to do a little bit more of that in these next few weeks. Vita, thank you so much. Wendy, I can't wait to share this with my coworkers. Wonderful. Lilia says, awesome workshop. Look forward to yoga audio too. Yes, I'll definitely send that. Arlene, thank you. Praying for us all. Helene, thank you so much. Tracy, much appreciated. Michelle. Robin, thank you for your time. Thank you. Laura, thank you for your time. Ria, thank you. Cheyenne, can you send us a list of what other attendees said for ideas too? You know, I may not be able to do that because we found out this doesn't offer us a way to record the chat, but I will send you the recording. And so you can go through that section. And as I read them, I read everything. I read everything I saw. Jacqueline said, this has been a fantastic hour. Thank you, everyone, Julie says. And I mean that. That's for everyone because everybody contributed. So amazing workshop. Thank you so much. Thanks. Look at all this appreciation. So what can you do? How could you offer something of yourself that might be helpful to others? I am just so glad that this was helpful for you. And I didn't know what kind of a response we'd get, but I'm just so happy. Cynthia says, I agree. This was so worthwhile. Thank you for every moment. Diana says, I knew you'd be rising to the occasion to inspire. Pat says, spring where flowers bloom, so does hope. Yes, I love it. Ginger, so great to hear and see and hear your voice. Missed you since I left Arizona 6 years ago. G7 says, loved every moment of this seminar. Elise, thank you for this webinar and all your mindful eating work. You're very welcome. Susie says, thank you, Lisa. I'm going to offer some free coaching sessions for those who are struggling. Lisa, that's fantastic. I love it. Thank you for that. Deb says, I love photography too. I thought that was one of my photos. Fantastic job. Isn't it fun? That's something I'm going to put on my list of things I don't make the time for all the time. Vicki says, thank you for your great advice. Julie says, there are help the community groups on Facebook where you can help others find things that are needed. I will try to help where I can. Thank you for reminding me, Julie. I saw that on the news. So somebody started a community page on Facebook where people in their community could write what they needed and others could respond with how they could help them. So that is a great suggestion. I wish I had remembered that earlier. Thank you, Julie. Diana says prayers and positive thoughts for your daughter's wedding celebration. Thank you. Yes, well, one way or the other, we're celebrating. We'll see how it plays out. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I'll stop the recording now and I'll send everything that I promised you. I'm going to jump over to the Q&A to make sure I didn't miss anything there. Namaste. Barbara said, my daughter in Tennessee called to check on us as, oh, I'm so sorry, as my husband is in end stage life, not doing well in the middle of the seminar. So I missed the app you were talking about. Will any of the resources you touched upon, so hopeful, and other list of resources. So I'm going to send the recording, Barbara. I'm so sorry to hear about your husband, but of course you needed to answer the phone and talk to your son. But I will definitely send the recording, and I would encourage you to listen to it again. I think this is something that is fairly timeless for the next however long, and so I hope that you hear many things that will help you as we go through this. So, all right, everybody, please take care of yourself, be healthy, be safe, and stay positive as much as you can.